The year 649 AD, draped Chang'an in opulent splendor, a city teeming with life under the Tang Dynasty's rule. Within the imperial palace, a microcosm of power, silks rustled against jade, incense painted the air, and hushed conversations mingled with distant temple bells. It was a gilded cage where fortunes turned on whispers, glances, and gestures. In the Zhaoyang Palace gardens, Wu Zhao, a fifth-rank concubine, possessed a quiet grace that masked her inner steel. Her beauty was striking, her almond eyes sharp with intelligence. Her pale skin contrasted with her phoenix and peony-embroidered brocades, symbols of imperial favor. More than a pretty face, she held wit, insight, and a fierce determination beneath her demure facade. One day she sat with Emperor Taizong, an aged but formidable man, recounting tales of heroes and myths. Her voice, melodious and captivating, transported him to worlds of bravery and cunning. True strength, she concluded, lies not in force but in anticipating enemies, understanding their weaknesses, and using their ambitions against them. Taizong, amused, remarked on her storytelling talent. Wu Zhao, feigning humility, replied, "The world is a stage, and we are all players with roles and desires." A breeze rustled the willows, casting shadows on the emperor's face as he sensed her hidden depths. "Some roles," he said, "are more rewarding." Wu Zhao understood the implication. The high stakes of courtly politics. She smiled demurely, concealing her burning ambition. "I am content, your majesty, to bring you pleasure and distraction." Nearby, the eunuch Zhao Kun, seemingly trimming roses, eavesdropped nervously. He whispered to Li Fu, "Her tales are captivating. I wonder where she gets her inspiration. Perhaps if we all paid closer attention to her actions, subscribed to her influence as it were, we could see the next chapter unfold before it's too late. Do you like her chances?" Li Fu, skeptical, dismissed her as a mere concubine. Zhao Kun, apprehensive, countered, "Do not underestimate her. There is something different about her. She has a hunger in her eyes, a thirst for something more than just the emperor's fleeting attention. I sense that she is a force to be reckoned with." Li Fu remained unconvinced, but doubt had been sown. He glanced at Wu Zhao, now discussing poetry with the emperor, and admitted her captivating charisma. But could she truly be a threat? Meanwhile, in the imperial harem, Empress Wang observed Wu Zhao's growing influence with wary eyes. A woman of noble birth, she had always felt secure. But Wu Zhao's arrival had upset the balance. The empress saw a dangerous rival who threatened to usurp her position. She summoned Madame Wei, her advisor, and asked, "What do you think of this Wu Zhao?" Madame Wei, cautious, replied, "She is charming and intelligent, your majesty. She has quickly gained the emperor's favor. But is she a threat?" Empress Wang pressed. Madame Wei paused. "She is ambitious, your majesty. She desires power to influence the court and shape the empire's destiny." Empress Wang paled. "That cannot be allowed. She has no right to meddle in matters of state." "Indeed, your majesty," Madame Wei agreed. "But she is clever and patient, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Then we must act first," Empress Wang declared. "We must neutralize her before she becomes too powerful." Madame Wei nodded grimly. "It will not be easy, your majesty. Wu Zhao is a formidable opponent, but with careful planning we can thwart her ambitions." Consort Shao, another favored concubine, watched Wu Zhao's rise with envy and resentment. Her beauty and talents had long enjoyed the emperor's attention, but Wu Zhao's arrival had diminished her standing. Surrounded by her handmaidens, Consort Shao lamented, "That woman is stealing everything from me." Her handmaiden, Chunhua, suggested seeking a sorcerer to break Wu Zhao's spell. Consort Shao, desperate, agreed, "Find me a sorcerer skilled in dark magic. I will do whatever it takes to regain the emperor's favor and destroy Wu Zhao." The court was a breeding ground for secrets and hidden alliances. Every smile concealed a dagger, every gesture masked an agenda. Wu Zhao knew she had to be vigilant, always one step ahead. She studied strategy and statecraft, deciphering body language and anticipating moves. She cultivated informants, loyal servants who kept her apprised of palace gossip. Knowledge was power, and she was determined to acquire it. As Wu Zhao's influence grew, she became the emperor's confidant and advisor. He sought her counsel and valued her judgment. The other concubines plotted to undermine her, but Wu Zhao remained unfazed, her eyes fixed on the throne of China. It would be a long game, and she was just getting started. The scent of sandalwood and jasmine, once comforting in the emperor's gilded chambers, now mocked Wu Zhao in the stark simplicity of the Ganye temple. Emperor Taizong's death had been swift, a silencing cough one moment, a chilling stillness the next. The world, which had seemed to bend to her charm within the palace walls, now felt cold and indifferent. Gone were the silken robes, replaced by the coarse cloth of a nun's habit. Gone were the admiring glances supplanted by the averted gazes of those who saw her as nothing more than a former imperial concubine, destined to fade into obscurity. The rhythmic chanting of sutras filled the air, a constant reminder of her supposed spiritual confinement. But within Wu Zhao's heart, no such peace reigned. Instead, a burning ember of ambition refused to be extinguished. The other former consorts, resigned to their fate, found solace in prayer and quiet contemplation. They spent their days tending to the temple gardens, copying scriptures and whispering stories of their past glories, now distant memories. Wu Zhao, however, could not bring herself to accept this passive existence. She saw the monastery not as a sanctuary, but as a prison. Each day that passed chipped away at her spirit, but also hardened her resolve. She would not simply wither away, forgotten and powerless. She would find a way back to the world, back to the court, back to power. The vast library of the temple, filled with scrolls detailing ancient philosophies and historical precedents, became her refuge. While the other nuns prayed for enlightenment, Wu Zhao sought knowledge, meticulously studying the strategies and tactics of past rulers, both male and female. She devoured tales of cunning ministers, ambitious generals and empresses who had wielded power from behind the throne. She learned about the delicate balance of power within the court, the importance of alliances, and the art of manipulating others to achieve one's goals. She knew that to return to the palace she would need a plan, a strategy that would exploit the weaknesses of her enemies and capitalize on her own strengths. Her most valuable asset, she realized, was her connection to the new emperor, Gaozong. During her time in the palace, she had cultivated a subtle but undeniable bond with him. He had been drawn to her wit, her intelligence, and her unconventional spirit. She had shared stories with him, listened to his woes, and offered him a different perspective on the complexities of court life. While he was still a prince, overshadowed by his brothers and burdened by the expectations of his father, she had seen something special in him, a potential that was waiting to be unlocked. Now, as emperor, he held the key to her freedom, her future. She began to craft letters, carefully worded missives that evoked shared memories and hinted at her enduring affection. She wrote of her loneliness, her longing for the world she had left behind, and her unwavering respect for him as the Son of Heaven. She did not explicitly ask for his help, but she subtly planted the seed of an idea, the possibility of her return. She understood that Gaozong was not as strong or decisive as his father. He was easily influenced, prone to sentimentality, and perhaps even a little bit infatuated with her. She would use these weaknesses to her advantage. Convincing someone within the palace walls to act as a messenger proved surprisingly easy. A young eunuch, eager to curry favor with someone who had once been close to the emperor, readily agreed to deliver her letters. He, like many others, remembered Wu Zhao's grace and her uncanny ability to sway the emperor's mood. Perhaps, he reasoned, aligning himself with her could be a wise investment in his own future. Each successful delivery emboldened Wu Zhao. She felt a sense of control returning to her, a flicker of hope igniting within the darkness of her confinement. Weeks turned into months. The seasons changed, painting the temple gardens in a spectrum of colors. Still, no response came from the emperor. Doubt began to creep into Wu Zhao's mind. Had she overestimated her influence? Had Gaozong forgotten her? Or had he simply moved on? Was she destined to spend the rest of her life within these walls? A faded memory of a life that could have been. She refused to succumb to despair. She would not allow her ambition to be defeated by silence. She decided to intensify her efforts. She began sending small gifts, carefully chosen items that she knew would appeal to Gaozong's tastes. A rare calligraphy brush, a beautifully embroidered silk handkerchief, a collection of poems by a renowned scholar. Each item was a subtle reminder of her presence, her thoughtfulness, and her unique understanding of his desires. She instructed the eunuch to emphasize the personal touch, to convey her sincere desire to offer him comfort and support in his new role as emperor. Finally, a response arrived, a short formal letter, acknowledging her correspondence and expressing his gratitude for her kind thoughts. It was not the passionate declaration she had hoped for, but it was a start. It was a sign that he had not forgotten her, that he was still open to the possibility of a renewed connection. Encouraged, Wu Zhao continued her correspondence, carefully calibrating her tone to appeal to Gaozong's sense of duty, his nostalgia, and his growing sense of loneliness. She knew that the palace, with all its grandeur and power, could also be a lonely place, especially for a young emperor burdened by the weight of responsibility. She learned through the eunuch that Gaozong was struggling to assert his authority. The court was rife with factions, each vying for influence and control. powerful ministers appointed by his father often dismissed his ideas and questioned his judgment. The Empress Wang, a woman of noble birth but limited intellect, offered him little support or companionship. Wu Zhao sensed an opportunity. She could be the advisor he needed, the confidant he craved, the strong hand that could guide him through the treacherous currents of court politics. She began to subtly offer advice in her letters, couching her suggestions in the form of stories and anecdotes. She shared examples from history, highlighting the successes and failures of past rulers. She pointed out the dangers of relying too heavily on certain advisors and the importance of cultivating loyalty among the common people. She knew that Gaozong, insecure and uncertain of his own abilities, would be receptive to her guidance. Her letters became increasingly influential. Gaozong began to incorporate her suggestions into his policies, subtly shifting the balance of power within the court. The ministers who had once dismissed him as a weakling began to take notice, recognizing the hand of a shrewd strategist behind his decisions. They wondered who was whispering in the emperor's ear, who was daring to challenge their authority. Empress Wang, sensing a growing distance between herself and her husband, became suspicious. She noticed the frequent comings and goings of the young eunuch, and the subtle changes in Gaozong's demeanor. She suspected that he was involved in some secret affair, but she could not fathom the true extent of Wu Zhao's influence. She dismissed Wu Zhao as a harmless nun, a forgotten relic of the past. This underestimation would prove to be her undoing. Wu Zhao knew that she needed a more direct way to influence Gaozong. Letters and gifts were not enough. She needed to be physically present in the palace, to whisper her advice directly into his ear, to solidify her position as his most trusted confidant. She began to orchestrate her return, carefully manipulating events to create the illusion that it was Gaozong's idea, his desire, not her own ambition. She instructed the eunuch to subtly plant the idea of a pilgrimage in Gaozong's mind. He should suggest that the emperor visit the Ganye temple to pay his respects to his deceased father and to seek spiritual guidance from the nuns. He should emphasize the peacefulness of the temple, the beauty of the gardens, and the opportunity for quiet reflection. He should also subtly hint at the presence of a former imperial concubine, a woman who had once been close to the emperor, and who now devoted her life to prayer and contemplation. Gaozong, weary of the pressures of court and the constant bickering of his ministers, found the idea appealing. He longed for a respite from the endless demands of his position, a chance to escape the suffocating atmosphere of the palace. He remembered Wu Zhao, her wit, her intelligence, and her captivating presence. He wondered what she was like now after years of seclusion and spiritual contemplation. He decided to visit the Ganye temple. The day of the emperor's visit dawned bright and clear. The temple was abuzz with activity as the nuns prepared for the arrival of the Son of Heaven. Wu Zhao, however, remained calm and composed. She had spent weeks preparing for this moment, carefully crafting her appearance and rehearsing her lines. She knew that this was her chance to reclaim her destiny. As Gaozong entered the temple, he was struck by the serenity of the surroundings. The air was filled with the scent of incense and the gentle murmur of prayers. The nuns, dressed in their simple robes, moved with quiet grace and humility. He felt a sense of peace wash over him, a welcome contrast to the chaos and conflict of the palace. Wu Zhao, kneeling in prayer before the main altar, was the picture of piety and devotion. Her head was bowed, her hands clasped in front of her, her lips moving silently in prayer. She appeared to be completely oblivious to the arrival of the emperor. It was a masterful performance designed to evoke his sympathy and admiration. Gaozong approached her cautiously. He hesitated for a moment, unsure of whether to interrupt her devotions, but curiosity and a lingering affection for the woman he remembered compelled him to speak. "Wu Zhao," he said softly. She slowly raised her head, her eyes widening in surprise. She seemed genuinely startled by his presence. "Your Majesty," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "I did not expect to see you here." Gaozong was struck by her beauty. Years of seclusion had not diminished her allure. Instead, they had given her an ethereal quality, a sense of inner peace and spiritual depth. He saw in her eyes a reflection of his own loneliness, his own yearning for connection. They spoke for hours, reminiscing about their time in the palace, sharing their hopes and fears and discussing the challenges of his reign. Wu Zhao listened attentively, offering words of encouragement and support. She did not flatter him or seek to impress him. Instead, she spoke to him as an equal, offering her honest opinions and her insightful observations. Gaozong was captivated. He realized that he had missed her more than he had ever imagined. He had missed her wit, her intelligence, and her unwavering loyalty. He saw in her a potential ally, a trusted advisor, and perhaps even something more. As the sun began to set, Gaozong prepared to leave. He turned to Wu Zhao, his eyes filled with emotion. "I cannot leave you here," he said. "You belong back in the palace by my side." Wu Zhao lowered her gaze, feigning humility. "Your Majesty," she said, "I am but a humble nun. I have renounced the world and dedicated my life to prayer." "I do not care," Gaozong replied. "I need you, the court needs you, China needs you." He reached out and took her hand, his touch sending a jolt of electricity through her body. "Come back with me, Wu Zhao," he pleaded. "Be my empress." Wu Zhao hesitated for a moment, as if considering the weight of his offer. Then she slowly raised her head, her eyes sparkling with ambition. "I accept, your Majesty," she said, her voice filled with determination. "I will return to the palace and serve you to the best of my ability." Her return to the palace was orchestrated as a gesture of compassion and piety on Gaozong's part. He declared that he could not bear to see such a talented and intelligent woman waste away in a monastery. He would bring her back to court, where she could use her skills and knowledge to serve the empire. He presented it as an act of benevolence, a demonstration of his commitment to the well-being of his people. The court was abuzz with gossip and speculation. Some welcomed her return, seeing her as a potential ally or a source of entertainment. Others viewed her with suspicion and resentment, fearing her ambition and her potential to disrupt the delicate balance of power. Empress Wang, in particular, was deeply threatened by her arrival. She sensed that Wu Zhao posed a direct challenge to her position, a rival for the emperor's affections and influence. Wu Zhao, now bearing the title of Zhaoyi, wasted no time in weaving her web of influence. She subtly insinuated herself into court affairs, offering Gaozong gentle advice on matters of state, playing on his insecurities and desire for her approval. Her words, carefully chosen and delivered with disarming sincerity, carried immense weight. She observed the power dynamics with hawk-like intensity, identifying weaknesses and exploiting them with ruthless precision. Consort Shao, once a formidable rival for the emperor's affections, found herself increasingly sidelined, her influence waning with each passing day. Gaozong, plagued by headaches and bouts of dizziness, began to rely on Wu Zhao to read and respond to memorials. She skillfully summarized complex issues, presenting them in a manner that aligned with her own agenda. Slowly, subtly, the emperor's power seeped into her grasp. The court officials, sensing the shifting tides, began to flock to her banner, eager to curry favor with the rising star. Empress Wang, concerned by Wu Zhao's growing influence, attempted to regain the emperor's favor by focusing on her duties and promoting harmony within the palace. But her efforts were in vain. Wu Zhao had already poisoned the well, turning Gaozong against her with whispers of incompetence and subtle criticisms of her lineage. Then came the birth of Wu Zhao's daughter, a beautiful, healthy infant. She was the embodiment of Wu Zhao's hopes and ambitions. The palace rejoiced, celebrating the arrival of a new princess. Empress Wang visited Wu Zhao and showered the baby with gifts. But a day later, tragedy struck. The infant was found dead in her crib. The news spread like wildfire through the palace, igniting a storm of suspicion and speculation. Wu Zhao publicly accused Empress Wang of murder. She claimed that Wang, driven by jealousy and a desire to maintain her position, had suffocated the child in her sleep. The accusation was met with shock and disbelief. Empress Wang vehemently denied the charges, proclaiming her innocence and swearing by the gods. But Wu Zhao's accusations were carefully calculated, planted with the precision of a master strategist. She had ensured that there were witnesses who could corroborate her story, subtly influencing their perceptions and twisting the truth to her advantage. Palace maids testified that they had seen Empress Wang near the baby's crib shortly before her death. The emperor ordered an immediate investigation. The investigation, overseen by Wu Zhao's loyal allies, was a sham. Evidence was fabricated, witnesses were intimidated, and the truth was buried beneath a mountain of lies. Empress Wang was formally accused of infanticide. The court was divided. Some rallied to her defense, others remained silent, unwilling to risk their own lives. But the tide had turned. The emperor was determined to see Empress Wang punished. The trial was a farce. Empress Wang was found guilty. Her supporters were silenced, exiled, or imprisoned. Consort Shao shared her fate. The emperor signed the death warrants. Empress Wang and Consort Shao were stripped of their titles, their names erased from the imperial records. They were imprisoned in a remote part of the palace, awaiting their execution. Wu Zhao reveled in her victory. She craved the title of empress. she began to undermine the emperor's trust in his ministers, accusing them of disloyalty and incompetence. She replaced them with her own loyal followers, consolidating her power within the court. The emperor yielded to her demands. Wu Zhao presented the emperor with evidence that Empress Wang and consort Shao were plotting to overthrow him and restore the old order. The emperor ordered their execution. The deaths of Empress Wang and consort Shao were brutal and gruesome. Before their deaths, they cursed Wu Zhao, vowing to return as cats to haunt her for eternity. The palace was horrified, but no one dared to speak out against Wu Zhao. She had proven herself to be a ruthless and formidable opponent. With Empress Wang and consort Shao out of the way, Wu Zhao's path to the throne was clear. She manipulated the court, using her influence over the emperor to secure the support of key officials. She promised them power and threatened them with ruin if they dared to oppose her. The emperor succumbed to her demands. He officially declared her Empress of China. The investiture ceremony was a grand spectacle, but beneath the surface of pomp and ceremony, a sense of unease permeated the court. Whispers of her involvement in the baby's death circulated among the courtiers. As empress, Wu Zhao continued to consolidate her power. She purged the court of her enemies, replacing them with her own loyal supporters. She established a network of spies and informants, monitoring the activities of everyone in the palace. She instituted a reign of terror, silencing all dissent and crushing any opposition. Emperor Gaozong faded into the background. He became a mere figurehead, a puppet controlled by his ambitious wife. Wu Zhao made all the important decisions, effectively ruling the empire in his name. Her influence extended beyond the palace walls. She appointed her own officials to key positions throughout the country, ensuring that her authority was absolute. She reformed the bureaucracy, promoted education, and implemented policies that benefited the common people. But her reforms were always driven by her own ambition, aimed at strengthening her grip on power. The court became a stage for her machinations, a battleground for her political ambitions. The officials who served her were either fiercely loyal or hopelessly afraid. Every decision was weighed, every word measured, for fear of incurring her wrath. The atmosphere was thick with paranoia and suspicion. As Emperor Gaozong lay on his deathbed, Wu Zhao seized control of the government. She appointed her own loyalists to key positions, consolidated her military power, and silenced any potential opposition. She was ready to take the final step, to declare herself emperor and usher in a new era in Chinese history. Gaozong finally succumbed to his illness, leaving Wu Zhao as the sole ruler of China. The court was in turmoil. Many officials questioned her legitimacy, arguing that a woman could not possibly rule the empire. But Wu Zhao was not to be deterred. She had come too far, sacrificed too much. She would not allow anyone to stand in her way. She declared herself emperor, establishing the Zhou dynasty and becoming the first and only female emperor in Chinese history. The world watched in astonishment as a woman ascended to the throne of the most powerful empire on earth. Wu Zhao, now Emperor Zetian, implemented policies to strengthen her rule and improve the lives of her subjects. She reformed the civil service examination system, opening it up to talented individuals from all social classes. She promoted agriculture, encouraging farmers to adopt new farming techniques and providing them with financial assistance. She was a patron of the arts and sciences. Despite her accomplishments, Wu Zetian's rule was also marked by ruthlessness and political repression. She maintained a secret police force that monitored the activities of her officials and citizens, rooting out any potential dissent. Suspects were often subjected to torture and execution, creating an atmosphere of fear and paranoia throughout the court. As Wu Zetian aged, her health began to decline, and the question of succession became a major concern. She had no clear heir, and her sons were still alive, albeit marginalized and resentful. In 705 AD, a group of high-ranking officials launched a coup against Wu Zetian. They stormed the palace and forced her to abdicate the throne in favor of her son, Li Xian, who was restored as Emperor Zhongzong. The Zhou dynasty came to an end, and the Tang Dynasty was reinstated. Wu Zetian, now in her 80s and weakened by illness, was stripped of her imperial title and confined to a secondary palace. She died a few months later, her reign of 15 years as Emperor of China coming to a close. Upon her death, Wu Zetian was granted the posthumous title of Zetian de Sheng Huangdi. Some historians praised her for her intelligence, political acumen, and the economic and cultural prosperity that occurred during her reign. Others condemned her for her ruthlessness, her manipulation of power, and the political repression that characterized her rule. The question of whether she had ordered the death of her own daughter to frame Empress Wang remained unanswered. Despite the controversies, Wu Zetian remains a significant figure in Chinese history. She was the only woman to rule China as emperor in her own right, and her reign had a profound impact on the political, social, and cultural landscape of the empire. Her reforms of the civil service examination system, her promotion of agriculture, and her patronage of the arts and sciences contributed to the overall prosperity and prestige of China. However, her legacy is also a cautionary tale about the corrupting influence of power and the dangers of unchecked ambition. Wu Zetian's ruthless pursuit of the throne led her to commit acts of cruelty and injustice that cannot be excused, regardless of her accomplishments. She was a complex and contradictory figure, a woman of great intelligence and strength who was also capable of extraordinary brutality. In the end, Wu Zetian's reign serves as a reminder that power comes at a price, and that the pursuit of ambition can lead to moral compromises that ultimately tarnish even the most remarkable achievements. The grand temples and palaces that she commissioned slowly crumbled over time. The reforms she implemented were gradually dismantled by subsequent rulers. The whispers and rumors surrounding her reign faded into the annals of history. Silence.